Well, my bench boost finally seems to have given me a green arrow. Having had just 2 green arrows since the start of the year, I finally seem to have bounced back. But in this usual video, as we always do, we'll have a look at my previous game week, my game week 27 team selection, my captaincy shout, my transfers, all of that, and get into some hot topics that you guys might be interested in. So let's get straight into it. So let's start off by having a look at how we got on in game week 26. So first of all, my game week 26 transfers. So I made just one transfer in game week 26 and I sold West Ham defender Kufal. Now, as part of my bench boost, I didn't want a West Ham defender in my team because they played against Manchester City, and now Kufal did return only 1 point, so it was the correct decision to sell him. In his place, I bought Aston Villa defender Konsa. Now, it didn't really work out quite as I expected with Konsa, but he did still get 9 points. A clean sheet against Leeds and then conceding against Sheffield United is definitely not the way round that I thought it would go when I brought him in. I thought they'd get a clean sheet against Sheffield United, but 9 points nonetheless, 8 more points than Kufal, the man I sold, is definitely something I'm happy with, so a good transfer ahead of game week 26. So having a quick look at what this meant my team got in game week 26, my game week 26 review. So we start off with my 2 Aston Villa players. So Martinez with a strong 12, with Konsa with a 9. Again, a clean sheet each, and then just a blank in that second game, but really strong returns from both of them combined to start off my bench boost. Next up, we have the 2 Manchester City defenders. Now, a good points return from Diaz, who got his goal in the first game, but Cancelo with just 2 because he was rested. Now, this does seem to be a bit of a theme with Cancelo. He seems so lively, we know what he's capable of, but he doesn't seem to do it nearly as much as he potentially should, and as much as some of those other defenders do. Now, I plan on keeping him, but he is one that I'm keeping an eye on because Cancelo down to John Stones, for example, would free up a bit of money if I ever needed it. Moving on elsewhere in my defence, we now add in Mitchell. Now, Mitchell was a big disappointment for me in game week 26. Now, Crystal Palace kept 2 clean sheets, but for some reason he was dropped in the first game and then had picked up an injury, which meant he didn't start the second game. What could have been? That would have been 12 points for Mitchell on my bench boost. I was probably the right decision to keep and play him, but I just got really unlucky that he didn't play any minutes. The final 2 players still have a fixture left to play, so we have Areola in goal, who has 6 with a clean sheet, and then Tottenham still to play tonight in game week 26, and then Dean, who has 6, and then a West Brom fixture again tonight. So good starting points from both of them, but let's hope for at least one return from one of the 2 in the last fixture of game week 26. Into the midfield, we have Gundogan, who started one and came off the bench and got an assist. Happy enough, and I actually was quite happy that he got rested in that second game, because when we look at my game week 27 captaincy, it means that I think he's more likely to start. And Bruno Fernandes, I know a lot of people would have captained or triple captained him this week. Unlucky with just the 6. There were potential penalty shouts, particularly in that Chelsea game, but 6 is still an okay return. For me, with his ownership, I'm not too bothered that that's all he got. Elsewhere in my midfield now, we have 3 players who still have a fixture left to play. So Salah has 3 plus Chelsea playing, so a blank in that Sheffield United game is not what we wanted, but he still has another game to try and make it up. Son, who got 11 points, a great return. Now, I think a lot of people were starting to lose faith with Son, but good to see him back in the points. And then Fulham as well to play this evening, and then Lookman with 3 plus Tottenham to play tonight. So an alright return from some of my midfielders. Let's hope for some more points out of tonight's matches. My other 2 forwards that we've got are Watkins and Bamford. So Watkins got his assist and Bamford got his blank. Nothing too much to report out of them. As I said, Aston Villa a bit poor against Sheffield United, but did get my returns from my Aston Villa assets against Leeds in the first match of the double game week. Now, the final player we have is my captain in Harry Kane, who scored, returned 12 points for me, so 6 double to 12, and still has Fulham to play. If he can just get an assist potentially against Fulham, then that would be more than enough for me. If he could get up to 10 double to 20, that would be happy enough for me. So a good start to my team. I've got a few players left to play, so let's hope they can do something in the final matches of game week 26. So looking at what this meant for my points, so I'm on 97 points. I wish I could record when I was on 100, but I need to get this video out for you all, of course. It does move my overall score up to 1,732, and this gives me a really good game week rank. Now, I did expect this playing my bench boost, but I didn't really expect it to go quite as well. A game week rank of 95k, really pleased with a score of 97 so far. So So in terms of my rank, my old rank before the game week was 45k, and it does move me up to about 20k. Now, the only player that really has the potential to damage me is Dominic Calvert-Lewin, so let's hope that he doesn't do that in game week 26, and that I can continue to push up into the higher ranks in this game week and then moving forward. So that's how my team got on in game week 26, but let's move on to the more important part of my potential transfers for game week 27. The first one we have is Mitchell. Now, Mitchell doesn't seem to be playing. He's maybe picked up a bit of an injury again. I do have some money in the bank, so I think just upgrading him to someone who plays in game week 29, because I will not be playing my free hit, is probably the way to go. He's one of those players that's been so infuriating for me. I keep thinking he's going to get back in the team, and then he gets dropped again, and then he plays again, so I can't really be bothered with that rotation aspect of his game anymore, so I will be looking to sell him. The other one, a very controversial one here, is Bruno Fernandes. Now, if there's ever a time to sell Fernandes, I think now is that time. We have Manchester City, then West Ham, followed by a blank game week. If I look at someone potentially to bring in like Aubameyang, who plays Burnley, then Tottenham, then has a fixture in game week 29 against West Ham, there is potential upside for me to sell Fernandes for those game weeks. Now, I do have a lot of money tied up in him, as I'm sure many of you do, so that will have to come into my thinking if I do decide to sell him. In terms of my potential transfers to come in their places, in terms of the defence, it is Dunk. So Brighton defence, they look good. Newcastle have had a couple of injuries for that game with 29 fixture against Brighton, so I think Dunk, with the attacking threat that he brings, is a great asset. So if I was to go into a Brighton defence, he'd probably be the one to come in. And in terms of the midfielder, the one that stands out for me is Aubameyang. Now, he did get rested in the game in game week 26 for Arsenal, where they beat Leicester 3-1, but I still think he's the main man in that attack. There is the Europa League rotation threat for him, which is a bit of a risk, but I still think the upside of him, what he could offer me in the upcoming few game weeks, is massive, so I am considering bringing in the Arsenal man into my FPL team. So just to summarise the potential transfers, so one, fiddling around with the less expensive players in my team, so Mitchell potentially moving up to Dunk, a player who plays in game week 29, and the other one, a much bigger, more important transfer, potentially losing Fernandes for a few game weeks and bringing in someone with a massive upside in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. But let's now have a look at how my team will line up for game week 27 if I think I'm going to make any of these two transfers. So finally, let's move on to my Game Week 27 team preview. So I realistically don't want to tell you that I'm going to do a transfer and then not do one. I just feel a bit scared sending Fernandes with the upcoming West Ham fixture and then the amount of money that I have tied up in him. There are other ways that I could get Aubameyang in, so I don't think that transfer is going to make way this week. And then Dunk has a tough fixture this game week against Leicester, so I also don't think I'm going to bring him in. If he brought him in, he'd probably sit on my bench anyway, so I'll probably just roll my free transfer this week. This means that I start with double Aston Villa in my defence with Wolves at home, so a good fixture for them. Wolves looked good and bad in recent weeks, a bit up and down, so let's hope for some clean sheet points from these two in that. I also have another double defence. Now it's Diaz and Cancelo with the Manchester City double game week of Manchester United and Southampton. Now, with Cancelo getting a rest in one of the matches in game week 26, I hope he's going to play both the matches in game week 27, and the same with Diaz because he plays almost every game for Manchester City. So fingers crossed for some returns from these two in the double. And then we add Gundogan, my third Manchester City player, into the double game week that they have in game week 27. A good double for him, and then the potential rest that he got in game week 26 could mean that he's in line to start both of these. Fingers crossed that he does. At least one of him and Cancelo plays both these games because the rotation is getting a bit much at the moment. Next up in the midfield we have Salah. Now he's looked a bit disappointing in recent game weeks. He's having the shots, but the conversion rate isn't quite as high as it used to be. But Fulham at home, Fulham have been good defensively, but let's hope that Salah comes a bit more central than he did in the game week 26 first match against Sheffield United and can get some returns for me and anyone else that is stuck with him for all this time. The final two we have are Son, who has a really nice fixture against Crystal Palace at home. Crystal Palace, they kept 2 clean sheets in game week 26, but they're still definitely a team to target. And then Bruno Fernandes, who has Manchester City away, probably the toughest fixture you can get, but you never know with Bruno Fernandes when he can get his points and how he's going to get them. Manchester City did concede in both games in game week 26, so there's always the potential for Bruno and Manchester United to get a return. Up front, we start with Ollie Watkins and Bamford, who have good enough fixtures. Watkins against Wolves and Bamford away at West Ham. Two defences who have definitely shown glimpses of being really strong, particularly West Ham. So let's hope for a return from at least one of these two going into this game week 27. We know what they're both capable of, so let's hope that they get some return. And finally, we have Harry Kane, the big man up front, Crystal Palace at home. Now, I know a lot of us brought Harry Kane in going into game week 26 because of that really good double, but this fixture in game week 27 I feel is equally as good, so let's hope for some returns from my Spurs guys. And then we've also got them playing in game week 29 as well, so really good to own them. That does mean that on my bench I leave Areola and Lookman, so my two Fulham players playing away at Liverpool. That is pretty self-explanatory. Dean, who has Chelsea away, I just don't expect a clean sheet. Now, he could end up being first to my bench ahead of Lookman, but the way that the Liverpool defence has been in recent weeks means that I'm putting Lookman first, and then Mitchell, of course, stays last on my bench. So finally, in terms of captaincy and vice captaincy, so vice captain at the moment is on Cancelo, so it has to be on a double game week player for me. Now, because he got that rest, I think he'll play both games in game week 27, and he's a little bit more explosive than the likes of Diaz, so that's why I've gone with Cancelo as my vice captain over Diaz. But my captaincy has fallen on Ilkay Gundogan. Now, he got rested, as I said, in one game week 26 fixture, so I do think he's more than likely to start both these games in game week 27. He did pick up an assist in game week 26, showing that attacking potential is still there, so I really hope that he can come in with some potential points. Now, I have thought about playing my triple captain on Gundogan. Now, I'm yet to decide on it. I just think there's that a little bit too much rotation risk to play my triple captain, but it is definitely something that I'm thinking of. Let me know in the comments if you would play your triple captain on Gundogan if you still have it this game week. So that is all we've got time for in this video. If you found it useful, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you have questions about your own team going into game week 27, drop them in the comments down below or message me over on Twitter and I will make sure to answer them ahead of the game week 27 deadline. But that's all we've got time for. I hope you've enjoyed and I will see you all next time.